Stuart, let's start with introductions for the audience. I know you, but I think it'll be good to have your introduction in your own words. For the audience, Stuart leads all the cloud ecosystems for MongoDB, and he leads partnerships for Microsoft, Amazon, as well as Google. Stuart, can you build upon that so that the audience know who they're listening to today?
Yeah, sure. So when I joined Mongo, which is a couple of years ago now, we had a small team that looked after all three clouds. That's now grown fairly considerably, and we've had to run, as opposed to being sort of a jack of all trades across the clouds, we're now specialised in particular cloud partnerships. So I've got a team for AWS and one for Azure. And then the GCP team is actually spinning up fairly fast at the moment. So there's going to be a new lead taking over that team. So all very exciting times.
Awesome. Thanks, Stuart. So let's dive into the question, Stuart. One of the things that we noticed that clearly you have come into that role and you're talking about how you have grown that partnership. I'm guessing the highlight of that was when you got mentioned in Ruba's keynote at reInvent at AWS. And what we have seen from our data, and you have validated that the co-sell opportunities have increased by 5x with AWS. That's quite an accomplishment for a short period of time. You said 2 years. How important is that relationship with AWS for you? And how important is that a critical growth vector for MongoDB? When you think about co-selling with AWS, what does that have an impact at MongoDB? So let's start at the high level.
Well, firstly, AWS is hugely important. They're our largest cloud provider. We obviously sell more with them, but we do more of everything with them from a sales perspective. As growth strategy, when we look at the clouds, they're all equally as important to us, and we provide parity across all clouds when it comes to rolling out new features, functions. Because we want our customers to ultimately choose how they want to buy MongoDB, whether it's Atlas, so a self-managed, managed version, or Enterprise Advanced, which is self. But then we also want them to be able to migrate between clouds, or even have a multi-cloud strategy, so they can take advantage of how the corporate decision goes, whether they want to move or stick with one or sign new agreements. We can help facilitate all of that. And then for your second point, from a co-sell, we know that if we get that right, and we can execute better, right? We sell better, and by that, what we mean is we can move at the customer's pace, which as we all know in sales, so I was 15 years carrying a bag, that at the end of the day, if you're trying to push someone, they're not going to do it. They're not going to sign on the dotted line. So if we can work with our cloud partners to move at the pace the customer wants to do it, because they understand that the wider picture, as I was listening earlier to your other presenters around the larger strategy, and I think it was Julia from AWS pointing out as well, that if we can find that out from AWS and the other cloud providers, then it reduces that time to actually get a deal done, and we get the right deal done. But over what we've found over the last year, because we've changed our model to a consumption model, is educating the cloud provider on what that means to them, how it manifests itself in commission checks, right through to how senior leadership see it, has been very key. And so by using WorkSpan, we've been able to use the modeling this within the platform, and what we've been able to do within Salesforce to help us navigate that journey. So it's been really important.
So I think that's great insight. Like the cloud players we are finding in all our partner customer universe are very important as you grow sales, especially in this macro environment. And you, towards the end of that response, you started touching upon 2 points, which let's build upon that. One is, what were the steps that you took as you grew that relationship in the short span of 2 years and took it to the next level where you're now getting featured in that keynote? So what were the steps that you took? Because I think a lot of our audience are practitioners who want to learn those key steps and make sure that they're delivering on that strategy.
Well, I think it sort of comes down to, firstly, we signed a big commit with AWS. going back 2 years now. So that puts us as a very important customer with them, not just an ISV, which kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. So we don't just get one team, we've got two teams, right? So we've got our account manager who looks after everything that we consume, everything that we want from AWS. But then we've also got that co-sell team. So we've got a global PDM, we've got regional PDMs, we've got co-sell leads. And I'd say that team really sort of came together about 1.5 years ago. And so for this financial year, which kicked off Feb 1, we were kind of in our stride. And we're very comfortable with each other. So we understand each other's language, we understand how each other works, how fast we want to can move. And that's been really key, that we've had that stability in that team. And in fact, we met up in New York a couple of weeks ago to review the year. So it's really good opportunity to get everyone together. And I think that's been probably from a scaling perspective, that's been probably the thing that underpins everything we've done. Because we've had that stability, we've had that access to people, has really been very, very beneficial.
Okay, so if I had to framework it, it's basically putting together that strategy, making sure that both the parties are committed, and then building upon that in an offline and online nature, which is the offline part, which is the meetings, and the online part, and then putting that strategy all into motion. Is that an accurate framing?
Yeah. Yes, right.
Okay, great. So, and then the second point that you started touching upon is, look, the offline part is great, the commit part is great, but then you need to make sure that you're orchestrating these partnerships with applications like WorkSpan. So if I have to switch gears now, we talked at the high level that it's important. We talked about the fact that how you're building it and now orchestrating it. So let's bring WorkSpan into the picture. How are you using WorkSpan? How is WorkSpan playing that critical role as you scale that partnership with Amazon?
So if we look at how we're going into next year, it's not just about us, it's about AWS as well. So we'll see much more around co-sell and a marketplace start to become more and more the same conversation over the next 12 months, or with the organizational structure changes that AWS have made. I think as reps sort of work out how they're going to get paid, and I think commission checks are not too far away for many of them. They're starting to understand what's coming down the line. And we're using our network to find out what matters to the sellers in this world. And we use that information to sort of set the strategy with what we do with WorkSpan. So what I mean by that is we need to share the right information to engage with reps, to engage with leadership. And it's not just about sharing everything or putting any kind of information onto ACE, because that quite often doesn't work. They want certain information in certain fields at certain times, and that's where WorkSpan is really, really beneficial for us. And we're doing another review of what we've currently got and where we want to move for the next 12 months. So that's most probably, I'd say, our key thing we've got to do over the next couple of months is just readjust to how AWS are looking at things. But we are all in a marketplace. You can see all of our offerings are a marketplace. We know that if a customer goes onto marketplace, they have a better experience, they're more likely to buy. And we get great metrics from AWS about how a customer moves through AWS marketplace as well. So that helps to influence our marketing, how we work together, where we can place our products where we want to appeal to. So it most probably is the most key channel to market going into next year.
Yeah. Again, amazing response. I think what I'm hearing from you is like WorkSpan is giving you that shared space and that system of record, which is clean, right? It's one thing about sharing data, but making sure that the data is clean, high quality, and you're putting the right checks and balances so that the Amazon PDM team and you both have a healthy kind of a book of business in the middle.
Absolutely.
I think moving a little bit away from Amazon, you have this unique perspective. You are in the multi-cloud universe, and you're saying Microsoft and Google are equally important. So let's spend a couple of minutes on that. If you think about you touched upon that response when you were giving your introduction. So how are Microsoft and Google playing that similar role that Amazon is playing in your ecosystem?
Yeah, and the cloud partnerships are most probably gaining in importance every quarter, right? So Atlas, which is our managed service on the cloud platforms, is the fastest growing area. So that therefore it is critical to our business. It becomes more critical to the cloud providers. It's not just about a co-sell for a partnership. It's about product development. It's about roadmap. It's about our access to a wider market. So the conversations we're having at the moment, as I've heard already on this call, is things around, for example, Gen AI. So we are developing our product with all the Gen AI tools. It opens up other conversations. It opens up other competencies. We want to be launch partners. All these sort of areas we are where we want to push, right? So yeah, they're all absolutely important to us. We don't treat Azure or GCP any less than we do AWS. We want them to have healthy competition.
Sounds good. And then the last question I'll ask, and then I'll open up for audience questions. Seems like there's a healthy dialogue going on in the chat window. Is as you think about scaling, right? WorkSpan is playing that role for you. Thanks for your partnership in orchestrating all the three clouds. So not only in Amazon ecosystem, but WorkSpan is helping you with the Microsoft and Google ecosystems as well. So if you can expand on that how do we help you making sure that you're equally invested in all three clouds? Can you expand on that a little bit, Stuart?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we're just in the process of rolling out for GCPs. We will have parity across all three. But that means that we can hold both our teams and their teams accountable using a level playing field, using the same metrics across each. And it's not necessarily really easy to do that when you've got three different portals that work in different ways using different data and metrics. So using WorkSpan, we'll be able to sort of normalize the data and see where we are, but also when we go into QBRs with the cloud providers, we'll be better informed about what we want to do and where we need to focus. We're also having a look into how other WorkSpan capabilities can help us. So I think others have mentioned about how you can partner with your other partners in the business as well. So we are looking at those sort of areas, how we can invest in areas where maybe we've built it ourselves in the past, being a very small organization, we'd say, but a very fast growing, where we can use WorkSpan's tooling that would build for now, but also for the future as well. So I would say that's most probably where we can, as I said before, we can add some parity across all three clouds, and that's going to be really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's great, Stuart. From what I have seen, and this is why I enjoy working with the MongoDB team, is you guys are so data focused, and we provide you that reporting and the data layer that makes you have these conversations in a very systematic manner, in a very organized manner. That look, this is the system of truth, this is the system of record. So let's have a conversation around the data, and then the subjectivity goes away. It all is a very objective conversation. So.
Absolutely.
So why don't we get some questions from the audience? Seems like there's a lot of questions flowing.
Yeah, Stuart, thank you. I'm actually going to start with the question from Matt Beyer that you just answered. so I don't know that we need to go over it again, but just thought it was interesting that Matt says, and thank you, Matt, for the question. As you're tracking metrics, what are the most powerful internal metrics that you're looking at, and then how does WorkSpan help you assist in that? Are there any metrics that you didn't talk about?
No, so we've got metrics in our SCA that we have to meet. So using WorkSpan to track those is important, of course. Mm-hmm. But I would say if we want to move forward with how much revenue we're generating together, we're obviously as a software company, as a heavy PG company, as you must be aware, we use Medic and we're part of that kind of ecosystem. So we're going to generate opportunity, right? That's a given. But we want opportunity from the cloud providers as well. We want them to be involved in investing in our success. So one of the key things we would look at is how much are they bringing to us, right? What they bring to us compared with what we're taking to them. We always know that we're going to take more to them. but also what they're bringing to us. That helps us to understand whether they understand what we are, where we fit as well. So it helps to drive enablement, helps to drive whether we need to do town halls, whether we need to go and do some more marketing in certain regions.
Terrific. I think that leads actually to another really great, this will be our last question in interest of time, but Chris Badger asks, this is a great question, right? Every partner wants to maximize AOs, right? AWS sourced opportunities. What has Mongo done to help prime the pump and motivate AWS Field to submit AOs?
So we have a dedicated team or specialist sellers, like an overlay sales team that just focuses on AWS. And they are split up to cover various regions and various sales teams. And their role is to be that conduit to connect our sales teams with AWS teams and to create those relationships. If we can get into an AWS sales team to get 5 minutes to tell them who we are, how to work with us, then we'll take that opportunity. But having that dedicated team has been most probably the route to the 5x that the Ruba alluded to.
It's awesome. Fantastic. Great. Well, Stuart, thank you so much.